When someone asks me if I can produce content about a game, I always try to accept it. Of course, there are genres I do not play, but as I know it's very difficult for a small developer to have someone talking about their game, it doesn't cost me anything to do that. But there's always something in me that hopes to discover a gem, even knowing that the vast majority of small games I play are just average or even just a good set of good intentions and only mediocre at that point in time. The Struggle of Combat is almost one of those, a small, very simplistic and totally forgettable indie game. Since you are here, why don't you leave a like, a sub, or even better, subscribe to the channel for more indie content just like this one. It helps a lot. Thank you. The Struggle of Combat is a 2D roguelike action side-scroller. I can still add a few more genres, but I think these are enough. The story is relatively simple. Someone attacks a prison, freeing 10 powerful criminals, who we then have to imprison again. There's good music in the game, but strangely, most of the time it doesn't seem to fit the levels we're playing. There are exceptions to this rule, of course, but it seems to me to be a waste that this happens, since the design of the levels doesn't influence the player's experience much, so there was little to lose with some redesign to better adapt some of the songs. I'll give you an example. There's music that conveys a more frightening atmosphere, and in the level in which that song features, even as holes as enemies that carry this idea a little further, but then the level design has nothing looming about it, and the remaining enemies continue to be as generic as ever. With a graphical style very much like a comic book, but not any from Marvel, but from coloring books with fairies and unicorns, there's not much interesting to talk about this option. Our character looks like those little stick figures we drew in elementary school, and some of our enemies follow the same pattern. The animals and bosses fortunately not, which in general they are better designed and deviate from this simplicity a little bit, even within the same graphic pattern. The choice extends to the levels themselves, which impoverishes them immensely, especially since the surface and the obstacles it contains are limited to the cobblestones over which we have to jump over, but which, curiously, make this game the only one in which to have the high ground is a disadvantage, since if the enemy is in a lower plane, our bullets hit the ground and theirs hit us straight in the head. Obi-Wan is crying on the inside right now. As for the game, we aim with the mouse and shoot. We also have a melee attack and a special weapon that works on cooldown and has a stronger attack. To make each run unique, we are dependent on several drops, whether from weapons or health items. There are tons of different weapons, each of which even has different ammo variations. And at the end of each level, you can buy items that help you progress. Also, to give the game some replay value, there are 11 different characters that we can unlock if we met certain conditions, most of them quite difficult. So much so that I only managed to unlock 3 of those playable characters. There is a curious option in the design of the level, since the boss always appears in the middle of it. And if in the initial levels this is not a problem, as the difficulty increases it becomes a little strange, since we all work hard to defeat this criminal who is much stronger than the other minions, and then we still have half of a level of enemies to beat, most of the time with very little life to spare. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with the Struggle of Combat, but there's also nothing special that makes me recommend it. And even considering the low price, there's no shortage of sales with much better games at even lower prices. See you next time, guys. Bye!